future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Animal Magnetism, exploring animal care for creatures great and small, conservation and preservation in today's world. Find out what a single voice can do to make a difference in the lives of animals. Animal Magnetism with Carolyn Hennesy starts right now on UBN Radio.
And a gracious good morning to you, everyone. Trish, do you remember, this is our 6th show. Do you remember how nervous we were? You're still kind of nervous? How nervous we were at our first show. It was like I had a shot of adrenaline.
I do remember that.
And now we're just sort of, it's another great show. Let's just get all that fabulous information out there.
It's my girl. I'm really, really, really proud of you.
Oh,
You're doing a very good job, honey.
Oh, yes, that was a double ovation. Well, first of all, I'm proud of both of us, but I will be proud of us and mankind, humankind, and the planet when the last Angus is set down on the ground, when the last bullhook is put down by the last mahout. Then I think, up until then, we're just grinding the flour. We're just trying to, we're trying to bake the bread. We're just grinding.
But the thing is, you're doing it, and that's why I'm proud
God
of you.
bless you. Okay, all right. There you go. We're going to start today with news and views, but I just want to whet everyone's whistle, whet everyone's appetite. We have an astonishing guest with us today, John Lukas, who is the president of the Okapi Conservation Project, and we're going to find out all about the Okapi and the dire straits that the project was in a year ago and how they have come back. We're going to just learn so much today about this beautiful, stunning little creature. Not so little, actually, but considering what it's related to, it's fairly on the diminutive side. But first, we're starting off with news and views. Now, this story, which I just love so much, this story, which was originally posted on May 14th by the Huffington Post, so many of you listeners may have already heard about this, but it's the first I'd heard of it, and I jumped up and down when I read it. All right. An elephant in Zimbabwe reportedly trampled a poacher who was attempting to kill the wild animal. Solomon Manjoro was trampled to death. I think that deserves applause. I'm sorry, I just do. And I don't think I have incurred any bad karma whatsoever by saying that. He was trampled to death by an elephant in the Charara National Park, according to the state-run Zimbabwe newspaper, the Sunday Mail. Manjoro and his friend No Luck, let's just say he has no luck, Tafaruka, are said to have visited the park between April 19th and April 26th, armed with 2 rifles for the purpose of hunting. Manjoro's remains, I'm sorry, it just goes right to my, American Horror Story leanings. Manjoro's remains were found after Tafaruka was arrested on charges of possessing firearms without a license. A third man linked to the poaching incident was also arrested. Although it is unclear how common elephant trampling is, Tree Hugger notes that elephants may be purposefully striking back at the threat of poachers. Quote, perhaps as more of the animals have lost family members to poaching, they've grown more aggressive to those appearing to be a similar threat. Oh, can we just say yay? I firmly believe that, again, as one of the 4 smartest animals with an intelligence approaching human intelligence on this planet, even though they are so benevolent and their hearts, each one is the size of Texas, I think they are going to start. I think they're going to start fighting back.
As
all
they
right,
should.
as
Leave
of
them
course,
alone.
of course. And now we come to our guest, the wonderful John Lukas. Are you there with us, my friend?
Yes, I'm here, Carolyn.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm just going
Right.
to tell a little bit about you, if that's all right. I'm gonna give you a little, give our listeners a little intro to you. You are the co-founder and director, you have been for 30 years, of the White Oak Conservation Center, which is located in Florida. That is the base of conservation efforts for over 25 species of threatened and endangered species, such as Florida panthers, cheetahs, rhinos, and the Mississippi sandhill cranes. I love that. Who knew? You are the president of the Okapi Conservation Project, which launched in 1987 to protect the wild population of okapi in the rainforest of the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. You are a founding member and vice president of the Wildlife Conservation Network, a founding member and president of the International Rhino Foundation. You serve on the boards for EnviroVet and the Southeast Zoo Alliance for Reproduction and Conservation and the Conservation Action Trust. You and your wife, Vanessa, longstanding trustees of the Cheetah Conservation Fund, which supports a very successful program in Namibia to preserve the cheetah habitat, and you educate the local residents on successfully coexisting with the cheetah. For 6 years, you are the resident curator for the New York Zoological Society's Rare Animal Survival Center on St. Catherine's Island in Georgia, and you became the White Oak Center's first director in 1982. So you really haven't done much.
Yeah.
There's just
It's been a good ride.
I feel like we're dealing with a poser here. I just don't know. I just don't know. So welcome. So, having done so much research, both Trish and I know what an okapi is, but I believe there are many listeners out there that maybe this is their first time actually ever hearing the word, and they certainly, or maybe they've heard it, but they don't know what it is. So tell us, please, what is an okapi?
Well, basically, an okapi is a forest giraffe, and it's an animal related to the giraffe that everyone's familiar with. It lives on the savanna grassland of Africa, but it lives in the rainforest only in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And we just finished a really interesting genetic study that's funded with Cardiff University in UK. The okapi is probably one of the oldest mammal species on the planet, at least 6 million years unchanged. So it's a very old type of mammal, one of the oldest, and it has lived in the rainforest, which have shrunk and enlarged over the millennium, but the population is just isolated in one area of this tropical basin of the Congo River.
Now, John, just out of curiosity, why do you think it is that it is endemic only to the DRC and only to the, I believe it's pronounced Ituri?
Yeah, the Ituri forest. Well, it's not just the Ituri. Ituri is really the stronghold of the okapi, but they're found over the northern section of the Congo. It's geographically isolated by the Ruwenzori Mountains and the savannas to the east, the savannas of Congo and Central African Republic to the north, and then mainly the eastern southern border is the Congo River. There is a population recently discovered south of the Congo River. That's the first one, but it's a very isolated, small population. But basically, it's geographically isolated, and it needs a rainforest. And what happened, the forest has contracted to be quite small, and that was the last refugia of the forest over time. And then it enlarged again to be quite big. The Congo Forest Basin is a very large forest now. So it's just what's called, that's a special niche. It feeds only on the plants in the rainforest, about 100 different species, and it can't exist outside of the forest. It just has no tolerance for the food types outside the forest.
Fascinating. So as the rainforest expands and contracts, so does the population. Now,
And so right now the forests are quite, a healthy forest cover, but climate change is, again, a worry for all conservation and wildlife, and that's something we have to consider also for the okapi.
Climate change, and would you also say the threat of poaching, hunting, etc.? Now the okapi are endangered, correct?
Right. We're actually, we just did a workshop in Kisangani, DRC, to look at the latest statistics and surveys we had, and we are proposing that they're listed as endangered. Their population is falling by more than half in the last 10 years. So it's endangered status, and the IUCN Red List is a scientific rating. So you have to have certain principles you meet, and the okapi meets those now. So now it's in the process of being officially listed as endangered.
From what I read, there's only about 10,000 of them left. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we estimate. It's very hard you cannot see an okapi in the wild. It's almost impossible. Their sense of hearing and smell is so acute that so just by tracks and their feces can you identify the location. And so we feel, as talking to the scientists who study this very intensely, about 10,000 left. And I would say we started the project, there was probably around 40 to 50,000, 25 years
No
ago.
kidding. There were 40 to 50,000. How many years ago?
25.
25
years ago, but you have to realize the Congo was Zaire then. It's gone through 3 periods of intense military conflict since then. And what happens in those times of lawlessness, the poaching and animal trafficking really increases. That's what's happened, unfortunately, in the Congo right now.
And so the poaching of the okapi occurs because not necessarily. For instance, the rhino horn is mistaken to be an aphrodisiac. We know it's not.
So mainly the okapi are snared, and it's the bushmeat trade that they get caught up in. They are targeted, I think, very rarely. But there are a lot of large animals in the forest, so the snares are quite strong, and the okapi are, they are victims of that. The elephant poachers are really the problem because they increase the demand for bushmeat when they're in the area, and so does illegal mining. So the combination of all the illegal activities really precipitates, more and more snaring and more loss of wildlife.
Trish's eyes just went wide as saucers. Now, Trish, are you familiar with the term bushmeat?
I just learned what the term was yesterday, but I don't think many people are. So please.
Well, bushmeat, because we here in a sort of what would consider to be a sophisticated society, we don't eat bushmeat. We just eat cows and pigs and things like that, things that we have, domesticated, that are farmed. But when you are out in the wild, see, it never occurs to us that you're actually going to hunt something and eat it. So bushmeat is whatever you can find, especially if you're a poacher and you're building a small little camp and you go out and you snare something, and the okapi, along with so many other animals, fall prey to that. Do me a favor, John, before we get into what happened basically just a little over a year ago, let's talk about the political, the social environment in the Democratic Republic of Congo and what you guys are up against.
Well, presently right now the country has seen it really a decline in the central control of the country by the national government, which is located in Kinshasa, which is about 1,000 miles from where we are in the east. So there's no roads connecting one side of the country to the other. So it's really an isolated. It's a big country, just for people as big as the United States, east of Mississippi, the third largest country in Africa. It's got very little road surfacing because of the extreme environment and the lack of development since the Belgians left. So basically, the eastern part has got a lot of resources: gold, coltan, minerals, elephant ivory. And because of the lack of control by the central government, a lot of these, what they're so-called militias, but they're just bands of, I call almost warlord-like, that just exercise control over resources for money, but supplies them with weapons and control of the population. So there's a lot of them running around eastern Congo. We have just 1 or 2 groups in our area, but going towards the border with Uganda, Rwanda, there's at least 10 different groups operating there.
Wow.
And that's where the UN is based now, trying to think. I don't know if people have been following, but they just authorized a new UN force in the Congo, which can take military action and actually can initiate search and destroy missions. So this is a new thing that just started. It's made up of an African force of South Africans, Tanzanians, and Malawians, and so this might change. The UN force has been there for many years. Is a non-combative force that only can respond to social situation or fired upon. So there's been kind of a lack of any type of support. The Congolese army is quite weak and disorganized, so they're not really much assistance either.
So this is good news, that now the UN is stepping in with, or that there is now a force comprised of several nations on site, and they actually have the power to go in and fight the militia, which are supporting and which are either poachers themselves and or supporting the poachers.
Right, exactly,
this
and
is-
gold mining and coltan, so it's all disruptive to the environment. There's a number of debates about, if this is effectively used and the civilians aren't, caught in the crossfires, it could be a good thing, but we have to be careful. There's lots of people living in these areas, and, this human shield technique is used by a lot of these militias, so they have to be very careful.
Oh, okay, all right. So this is socially what you're up against, and the thing is, these are obviously extremely poor countries as well, except
It's
for
one of the poorest countries on Earth. Yes.
right. Except for those few that have taken up arms and that are mining for the gold and that are selling that's where the money is concentrated. So it's a real, the divide, the economic divide is great. So there's an impetus for someone to maybe join the militia and how are there any programs in place that you know of that say, don't do this, don't take up arms, join the militia, become a poacher, even though that might feed your family. Go over here, and here's this job. Here you can, come to work for the Conservation Project. Are there enough jobs for people so that they don't have to resort to killing elephants?
There's not enough jobs, but we have a program like you're talking about. Our educators go into the villages and they talk to all the young men, and they explain to them, the long view of becoming part of a militia or a poacher or a miner. Right. And most of them, it's not a very longevity, but there is alternatives. One thing about the Congo, it is a very agriculturally rich country, and people can support themselves and feed themselves with a small piece of land if there's a peaceful surrounding. So we have a lot of programs to improve agricultural production and more food security. And if the young men stay on the land, they actually can make money and support their family. And the view we see is that they'll be more successful at that than if they go and join these illegal groups, because most of the time they end up with no money, or they get injured, or they lose their life. And so it's a very poor option. So we're trying to give them. There are some, other agencies trying to find jobs. It's a very poor area country, right. And because of the insecurity, there's no real investment for jobs. But we have to say that, living the life that's been supporting these people for thousands of years is possible if we can just get the security in place and they can work the land.
Of course. And I'm thinking ahead in terms of commercially speaking. There might even be a tourism aspect. Like, for instance, the way they're doing in Thailand with Lek Chailart's Elephant Nature Park. There are ways out of a dire situation. And as I read earlier, in my little news and views article, they might get trampled by an elephant. So
well, the forest elephants are very worried by nature because they live in the forest, mm-hmm. and so they do attack. They're not easy, but unfortunately the poachers are very heavily armed, and like they do every place else, they just fire into the bush, and so that's the worst thing. But the elephants, we don't have a report, but I'm sure they get a few poachers now and then, because you can't see these elephants 10 feet from you in the forest. They can get you.
All right, I'm just going to read a little blurb on exactly what the Okapi Conservation Project is, and then we're going to talk about the environs. The Okapi Conservation Project, OCP, was initiated in 1987 with the objective of eliciting support for the conservation of the wild okapi from individuals, foundations, and zoological institutions managing okapi around the world. Okapi ambassadors in zoos help instill awareness of the rapid destruction of the rainforests and generate financial support for the preservation of okapi habitat in the Ituri forest of the Congo River Basin. The OCP has significantly contributed to the establishment and security of the Okapi Wildlife Reserve, one of the most biologically diverse areas in all of Africa. Before we talk about the Ituri forest, let's talk about why you don't see a lot of okapi in zoos around the world.
Well, they're first of all, they were originally very difficult to manage because they are a browser, each a certain species, and there was never that many that came out of the Congo and under even the Belgian times, so the genetics of the population. But we were able to get some animals out in the early 1990s that were orphans, and we brought them, and they've really infused genetics. So now there's about, I think, 38 zoos worldwide that have them, and they are reproducing well, and they're doing very well in zoos now. They're well managed, so the population is increasing. There's zoos there's Okapi in Japan now, and some other countries. So I think their awareness is growing, and the zoos are one of our biggest supporters for the project. They're very committed to helping the wild Okapi. And I think the number, as the number in zoos increase, hopefully the more of them will support the project.
So as zoos become more in terms of what kind of a habitat a specific species of animal needs, the Okapi, like anything else that requires a certain specific environment, the Okapi are now thriving.
Right, and I think that we've learned a lot working with the Okapi and working with the people in the Congo. We have a lot of Mbuti pygmies that work with us and know a lot about the animals. And I think through many workshops and special sessions with a lot of the zoo people, we've been able to educate them, and other people have, about the unique biological needs of the Okapi. And if you take those in consideration in captivity, they do very well. For instance, they are solitary. Males and females are solitary. They're only together for breeding, so you really have to be careful about introductions. The calf hides for 5 or 6 months before it stays with its mother, so you have to provide sites and places for a calf to hide. The mother does not want to be with the calf because leopards prey on them in the wild, so she doesn't want to draw attention to her calf. So they're very interested. They use ultrasound, sound we can't hear and a leopard can't hear, to communicate. So the mother will call her baby to nurse. The baby will nurse to go back, lay down in what's called a nest. And it's really unusual to stay in that nest for 4 or 5 months until it's almost 3/4 grown before it starts moving with its mother. And that way it's big enough to avoid leopard predation. So it's a unique biology of the Okapi to avoid leopards. And so when you in the zoo, if you try to keep the mother and baby together, or keep them together, it doesn't work. The mother gets too stressed. You can't keep the male together all the time because that's not normal. So once they learn how to build special facilities and attend to their specific biological needs, they do very
well. I believe the Los Angeles Zoo has an Okapi because I've seen it.
I feel like I've seen them
yes,
too.
we do.
And they're very good supporters. The zoo there is excellent supporters of the Okapi project, and we have very good working relationship with them.
Well, shout out to John Lewis and Eugenia Vassals from the Los Angeles Zoo, who Eugenia was a guest on the show just a few weeks ago, and we talked all about how wonderful the Los Angeles Zoo now is and continues to be. So I'm so excited that this is my local zoo. The Okapi is very interesting. The markings on this animal are wonderful, and I believe I was told that the markings on the back leg, the striations, are meant to sort of mimic the dappled light coming through the rainforest, so that the Okapi is basically camouflaged when standing in the forest, when standing sort of with its hindquarters to prey. It's
supposed to look like rays.
It's supposed to look like rays of sunshine going through the trees. Yeah. That's true. Yes.
It does, and we've had our very large research pens in the Pulu in the Congo, and yes, when the sun comes down through the forest, in the shadows, they kind of just disappear, just like zebras, disappear at the evening at dusk. It's the same principle. The lights have broken up, and mainly the animals would be seen from behind, from predators, so that would help them distinguish themselves.
It's amazing. It's amazing how nature takes care of its own if we just leave it alone. Do me a favor, John, before we break, describe the Ituri forest, and it's not just the Okapi. There are about 1,500 other species that are in this particular area, including a band of pygmies that are like the last. Yes, tell us all about that.
Well, the Ituri forest is about 175,000 square kilometers, and it's a very unique place because it's home to, of course, the Okapi, but forest elephants, chimpanzee, bongo antelope, 1,000 species of birds, 10,000 species of plants. It's one of the most biologically diverse places on the planet, and it's inhabited by the Mbuti pygmies. They're a net hunter. They use nets to hunt small dikers, forest antelope. They've been there for about 10,000 years, living in that region, so they have developed a culture that just they're nomadic hunter-gatherers in the rainforest, and actually they're the first ones described the Okapi to Stanley when he crossed the Congo in 1888. They called them Oapi, and that's where the name Okapi comes from. The Pygmy word is Oapi for them. And nobody would believe that there was a zebra-like animal living in the forest, so it was not really officially described in 1901. But the forest is very diverse, and that's why we're working there, because the Okapi is the national symbol of conservation for this country. It's an umbrella species that helps protect all the other animals, and it has a larger number of chimpanzees, elephants, and Okapi where we are than all the rest of any other place in the Congo, which is very important to conserve.
Now that leads directly into my next question, which is, why did you form the Okapi Conservation Project? Why did you focus on the Okapi with everything else out there? Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a zoologist by training, and I was always intrigued by the Okapi, and there was, at that time, as you mentioned earlier, they weren't doing very well in zoos. There's only a few of them, and I had seen the Okapi in Brookfield Zoo in Chicago and a few places. And my work at White Oak, we started to work with them there because we had an excellent environment too. And so we started. I worked with a Belize friend and a Swiss friend to start the project in 1987, because at that time there was no protected area for the Okapi. The Okapi lived in Zaire at the time, but there was no place they were protected. All the areas were open to hunting or mining, and so we felt that working with the Wildlife Conservation Society and World Wildlife Fund, we helped create the Okapi Wildlife Reserve in 1992, which is really the center of the Okapi habitat and the best habitat. So that's why we started, because we wanted to have a place that they could be protected. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was we were able to galvanize support from zoos and foundations for the work, which was because it was such a unique animal.
There's and such a beautiful animal. Boy, you look at one straight on, the most gentle, sweet, benevolent faces, just beautiful. We are going to take a very short break, John, and then we're going to come back and talk about the people that you have on the ground, on scene, risking their lives, and exactly what happened a year ago. And we're going to talk about that and how you are recovering from it. So we're going to take a break. Please stay with us, everybody. We are on with John Lukas of the Okapi Conservation Project. You're listening to Animal Magnetism, www.ubnradio.com. Don't go away. Okay, Maureen Flanagan in studio, the Taste Temptress. So excited because yet again it is time for another installment of the Vegan Teas.
Well, I'm so excited to do these because it's such a wonderful opportunity to let everyone know that you can save an animal
and eat well
and
deliciously,
for your heart.
Deliciously too. Yeah.
Deliciously, full of flavor. So my tease today is I'm eating this salad right now. Salad. And I came up with this salad right as I was eating this salad.
I'm just going to be over in the corner laughing because that's the most brilliant name for any food ever. Okay, go.
So what I love in salads are really delicious, clean greens with a lovely vinegar and something crunchy and something sweet. That's really all I need in a salad. I often find a challenge out in the world finding a salad without any dairy in it. It's very difficult. You go to a restaurant and the vegetarian options always have cheese because a lot of vegetarians eat dairy. Right. But for those of us who are vegan, it's always, can you leave out the mozzarella? Can you leave out
the blue cheese,
the
feta
Parmesan?
cheese, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Or egg. So I made this salad up, and it's a little spicy, a little sweet. There's some dried sour cherries in there, and fresh tarragon, and dark chocolate vinegar.
I was going to just further tease the audience by saying this includes dark chocolate balsamic vinegar. Stop me right now.
You say salad? Chocolate?
What?
I don't get
Huh?
it. Trust me on this one. Cherries and chocolate. I make an insane chili sauce with cherries and chocolate and coffee. It's really good.
Maybe that recipe will be coming up. We don't know.
That will come up later.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Y'all know where to go to find this. www.ubnradio.com, Animal Magnetism page. Go get some.
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
And we are back with Animal Magnetism. I'm Carolyn Hennesy, your host, with my fabulous co-host, Miss Tricia Lasky. We have been talking for the last 25 minutes or so with John Lukas, co-founder, director for 30 years of the White Oak Conservation Center, located in Florida, and president of the Okapi Conservation Project. We found out what an Okapi is, where it's located, what else is located with it, why they are now thriving in zoos, because zoos are getting smart, John, and this is a species that is 6,000 years old, closely related to a giraffe, but looks a little like a zebra. Just beautiful, lovely, benign. But it is also located, the Okapi Reserve, in a very dangerous area of the world, the Democratic Republic of Congo, an area also known for its vast gold reserves and elephants with elephant tusks, namely ivory. So tell us about the events of a year ago, June 29th, and what happened. 29th.
Yeah. Well, just to lead up to that, what you just mentioned, the illegal gold and the ivory, just the escalating prices globally increased the amount of pressure on the Okapi Wildlife Reserve, and we had seen that in 2011 and into 2012. So we fund, along with a few partners, what is the Institute in the Congo for the Conservation of Nature. That's the wildlife guards, the rangers, and they are the ones that are in charge of protecting the wildlife and the habitat in the Okapi Wildlife Reserve. And they mounted up.
And you fund them. You pay their salaries, correct?
Yeah, we pay most of their salary, most of the funds. We have a partner from a German bank aid agency that helps us, and the Wildlife Conservation Society is somewhat involved there too. But basically, we're the majority funder for them and have been. And so their response, which was their job, was to go try to curtail this illegal activity. So they mounted a very effective counter attack program on these poachers. They arrested poachers. They closed the gold mines. But the poachers were organized, and they had some complicit backing from some higher up military, and they attacked our station and the park headquarters on June 24th in 2012. And
I'm sorry, I thought it was
at 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and they killed 6 people, and they killed the Okapi we had at the station. They burned and they looted. They abducted over 100 people, and a few days later, the military responded in the UN, but the damage was done. And so these people, the main issue is they do not want any legal control over their illegal activities. Basically, they want the reserve to go away, which is the government has said no, that's not going to happen, and we've said no, that's not going to happen. So the ICCN and the Congolese army have responded, and we work closely today, but there's still threats like these still are going on a year later, but most places are ready for them, but unfortunately they haven't been able to neutralize these forces yet.
The operative word, of course, being yet. Now, you say that 100 people were abducted. What happened? I mean, my heart goes out to the families of the 6. I believe it was an immigration worker. There were two of the villagers that were there, two workers for the OCP, and someone's wife. So my heart goes out to their families, of course. But what happened to the 100 people who were abducted?
Yeah, the abducted people were mainly for portage of stolen and looted goods. So most of them were released. Some after a couple of weeks, some after a couple of months. But unfortunately, there was 15 women that were kept, and they were released slowly. And the last one was released, I think, about 3 or 4 months ago. So all of them were eventually escaped or released. So they were all, and we have a program now for the women that were, especially the women that were abused. We have a program where they're getting counseling and help, because that was a very serious,
They were held hostage for almost a year, some of them?
Some of them were held hostage for almost a year.
Wow.
This is a technique, as you know, this war, rape is a thing of war in this part of the world, so it's very difficult for us to understand, but when you're there, it's atrocious. You just can't believe how devastating it is on people and families.
And were you actually there?
I was unfortunately I wasn't there when the attack. I'm usually there. I was usually there in June, but I wasn't that year. I was there in July right after the attack. I went in and been back 5 times since to work with our team on the ground, which is excellent to keep everything going and get the project rebuilt and operating.
So this attack was retaliation for a legal attempt to control illegal activities, and this, and I'm assuming that in recent memory or in the history of the OCP, this was the first time that your rangers attempted to curtail the illegal activity of the poachers. So this attack wasn't totally unexpected. I mean,
no, I don't think it was. It was, I think it was the surprise nature of it that made it successful. And so, and the size of the force. And that was two of the things that I think caught some of the guards off. They were not prepared for this.
Can you tell me what safeguards you have in place now to assure that if the Rangers do actually go out and try and curtail, that even if there is some type of retaliatory effort, that it won't be successful? Can you tell me what safeguards are in place, or would that be giving away state secrets that you don't want the other side to know?
No. We've all the guards have been rearmed. We have a new conservator with a much better training, military training in place. We have a unit of the FARDC, which is a Congolese army group we've worked with before, which is quite reputable and honest group. They're based in Tupulu. All our guards go on patrol with Army. It's a combination of Army and guards together. We're still patrolling the rest of the poacher. I just got the most recent report. They just arrested 5 poachers, confiscated IV and guns. So they're still on patrol. They're still doing this, but there's a combination of the military and the guards together to increase the size of the force. And then all the towns have some of the Congolese army based in them. So we've had a defensive mechanism, and there's really any of the attacks recently been way outside reserve, mainly on gold mines and things like that. So I think the fortifications and the strategy to deter these guys is working. And also I think we're seeing a real increase in collecting snares and getting the poachers, because the army we have with us now is quite competent.
I'm going to actually put the offer out to McDonald's to just feed the poachers, so they don't actually have to rely on bushmeat. If we can just
ship some Big Macs over.
Truck some Big Macs in,
Yeah,
I think that would.
French fries.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
Get them interested in the French fries. And
crazier things. Well, it's
stop
like
eating
give them
animals.
something else to eat other than bushmeat. That could alleviate a lot of the problem.
John,
Tell me how the situation is now, a year later.
I think that, we've rebuilt the facilities. We've demolished the buildings that were burning. We're starting the rebuilding for the IGCN headquarters. We're trying to, our programs, we have 2 major programs. One is for as we just spoke about, the support of the guards, protecting wildlife and habitat. The second one is involving communities in sustainable use of resources so they can coexist with the wildlife. This is a reserve where human activities are allowed. There's agricultural zones and there's forest zones. There's people living inside the reserve, and then the indigenous and Mbuti pygmies can practice the culture they have, so they're allowed to hunt in a sustainable, manner, and so that's allowed. So we work with the people, and we are agroforestry community assistants. We provide aid to schools and clinics, and we have a lot of education about how people can grow better crops and sustain their resources better in the forest. And those are ongoing and stronger than ever. And then, so that has not stopped, and because we have offices in the towns around the reserve also with our staff. So that's going forward. So that's going on.
Wonderful.
What we're looking forward now is we've already finished we got a nice action plan for next year to really improve some of the other facilities we have and our contact with the people. And also, we have to increase our support for the guards. That's the things we have to do.
Did you find, just out of curiosity, when word spread of this attack, that there was a larger number of villagers and young men, I mean, perhaps even young women, who wanted to join your Rangers?
That's what I was going to ask. What was the community reaction to it? Yeah.
Well, I think the community reaction was basically one of support for us because everybody else left their life. The worst thing in this kind of environment is the life of an average person. Without security, they can't take a road or bus. They can't take their bicycle someplace.
Right.
The food supply, the transit supplies are disrupted, so they suffer tremendously. So what we try to do is we provided food for all our staff and families in ICN for 6 months after the attack. We provided all the medical care. We went to all the villages and we asked what we could do to help them. So what we found out is, because we stuck with the people and stuck with our project, the people have a great amount of respect for it, but also they're willing to cooperate and help better. I think our relations with the communities are better than ever. And what this does, two things, is they're more vigilant about their use of resources. And secondly is they are good informers. If they see illegal activities, they hear illegal activities, they're notifying ICCN or our staff. So we have a better control of the area because the people realize that it's all in their best interest to support the government because that provides security and protection. If they're not there, their lives would really be much worse. So that's what we found. People join the Rangers. We do hire Rangers from the local villages. We just don't have the money to pay. We have 110 Rangers right now. The other thing we do is the people realize that this poaching and mining is causing problems for the relatives, even if it's not. These people have relatives in villages all around the reserve. If it doesn't affect them directly, it affects their relative's family,
Sure.
and then they realize that this is not beneficial, to their family unit.
Trish and I both read the Anthony Bourdain article, which was very interesting about the DRC, the 10 things to know before visiting the DRC, and number 7 is that the wildlife, of course, is phenomenal. Let me ask you about celebrity blurbs, blogs. Is that kind of support tremendously important to you, or are you getting your funding? Is the word being spread through other sources? And the follow-up to that, part B, is what can we do? How can the average individual help? And then, of course, there's a part C, is can Trish and I come visit? Can Trish, Andrea, and Tony and I come visit the OCP? I think our bags are packed. We want to come. We want to come visit.
So what the first question?
Well,
Let's start with the first.
the first part is basically how are you getting the word out? How is the word being spread? And what can we do?
Yeah, just the first word's being spread. Basically, we have a website and we have Facebook and Twitter accounts, and our partners spread the word. All the zoos advertise the project, and so that's basically, we try to get as much media as we can. But as you know, it's a difficult topic for people to understand. So we try to get it out that way. And the way people can help the most is two things. Of course, we're financially support all these projects through donations, and our staff here, we unpaid staff. We can only pay, all our money goes to the Congo to pay our staff there. We have a great dedicated bunch of all Congolese people on the ground working. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, there's a real issue with the drivers behind all these problems are ivory, and I think that's not a big issue in the United States. We're really aware of that. So the second is gold. There's no such thing as conflict-free gold, and there's a couple of groups working on that. So I think supporting groups that are trying to organize the campaign around, just like they did with diamonds, is to get conflict-free gold. But that's really what's causing a lot of this problem, is that the two things are ivory and gold. And if the market can be controlled better, there'd be less opportunities for people to sell this stuff, even sell it illegally, and that's the thing. So there is a couple. I think we really have to get, if people know that all this we're buying was coming from people that were killing wildlife and killing people. I think they can price about buying it.
Hear, hear. Tell everyone, please, where they can donate. I've got very smart, very savvy, very big-hearted, conservation-hearted listeners. Tell us, please, specifically where we can donate to the OCP.
It's in two ways. Basically, we have our www.okapiconservation.org is our website, and there's a donate page there. And Wildlife Conservation Network, which is located in California, we're one of the projects that they donate, and they pass 100% of the funds on to our project. So the Wildlife Conservation Network is a very good organization, one of our best partners, and then the Okapi Conservation Project. So those are the two that take the funds for us, and we send the money over to the Congo to pay the salaries and support the people over there that are working hard.
Okay, people, you heard it. You heard it directly out of the mouth of John Lukas. Every single dollar helps. If you can only donate $1 and you feel like doing something really great today, donate it to the OCP. John, how often do you get over to the DRC? How often do you get to the reserve?
I go over quarterly for 3 weeks at a time, so I just was there in May, beginning of June, and then I'm going to be going back probably September, August, September. So we're because of the tenuous follow situation, we're making 3-month business plans and 3 months budgets so we can be adaptive and make sure the funds are used to do what we can do, and we're addressing the issues that need to be addressed. So that requires I meet with the staff over there, and we go through everything, and we meet with the government officials. And we got just a quick note that we just got some new support. The new governor of the area, he grew up next to reserve. He's very supportive of conservation. I met with him in Kisangani, and he is trying to garnish more support from the federal government for us. So I think we have a new ally, a good ally.
Well,
the new
that's
governor.
great.
That's where it starts. Yeah, that's where it starts with the bonding. It starts with growing up, seeing the Okapi, growing up next to the reserve, and then it sort of settles in your heart, and you don't want to see it. You don't want to see it destroyed or decimated.
Yeah, this reserve's only been since 1992, but it's really fortunate this new governor, and he's quite popular. He's got a tremendous following, and hopefully he'll move up, and we're hoping that he's president one day, because then we really can make, I think
Wonderful.
conservation will really make things happen there. But right now we have to get through these years, and we've been through this before, so it's frightening on one hand, but we know with the right effort and the right amount of funding, we can get through this, and things will turn. The Congolese people are wonderful people. They're dedicated. They're hardworking. And just as this bad apple spoil the bunch, it's just a few bad apples and make the people of Congo look like they're all ruthless, but they're also really wonderful people. That's what I think we have to get across. They're victims as much as anything else here in this situation.
Well, you're doing a great job of getting that across today. So you just sort of touched on my final question, which is, in let's say 10 years out, what do you realistically see as the status being for the OCP and this wonderful, I mean, you're right, it's an umbrella organization, because it's not just the Okapi, it's everything in the DRC, those 1,500 diverse species of wildlife and humans. So tell me what your goal is.
Well, our goal is to really, I think, we don't control the security, we can help with that, but I think the security is in place. I think the UN and the global community is trying to move the Congo to a peaceful resolution of these conflicts. If that occurs, and hopefully in the next few years that'll happen, we can really get the programs going. And if protection is not such a high priority, we can do more with the communities, and then we can get the ecotourism going. We also can look at micro enterprises and micro businesses for the communities around the reserve, because it only will have a viable reserve if the community support it, and that's our goal. So we have to work hand in hand with them, making their lives better, and they can become stewards of the environment. And I think we'll be in a good position. I could see 1,000 people a month going there, and that would really help generate an economy that would really help. And it's a beautiful place. And besides the wildlife, you get great scenery, and you have the Mbuti picking culture. So we had a lot of tourism in the 90s, and it was quite popular before the Civil War started in 1996. So it's a great place, and hopefully in 10 years we're back to that, having a lot of visitors from around the world. But also we have communities that are really engaged in the success of the reserve.
Well, you have 4 people sitting in this studio that have their bags packed already. We are going to be on the first plane. John Lukas, I cannot thank you enough. I hope to someday meet you. I know we all do. Sitting in this studio, you're a giant in the preservation and conservation world, and a giant in our hearts. And thank you so much for everything that you and everyone on the ground, putting their lives on the line, do for the Okapi and the OCP and the DRC. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a wonderful conversation, and I enjoy success with your show. And hopefully we'll meet soon. Thank you.
You know we will. We're on the plane. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Al Wright. What a fascinating man.
Yeah.
What an amazing.
Really
what an
incredible.
amazing project. And I mean,
I really do kind of want to go.
we are. Yes. Listen, I'm talking for all of us here.
Wow.
I'm talking for all of us. Okay, we are coming to the end of the show, but first we have our trivia question. So for those in the chat room, whoever answers first gets a fabulous jar of Corajam, which is sort of a new skin for animals, a wonderful animal lotion developed for horses, but great for dogs, cats, any place where there is a wound, a sore, an abscess, and it also works great on the human being. So here's the trivia question. What breed of dog has the largest vocabulary? Dun, 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 dun. Yes, okay, and now I'm going to give the answer to last show's trivia question. And that was, for every single person on the planet, how many ants are there?
For one person.
For one person, for every
How many
person on the
ants?
planet,
Yes.
how many ants are there?
Right.
1 million. 1 million ants for every single person.
Okay.
We're talking, I don't even know how many zeros. And there's
Lot of ants.
there's not enough ant spray to okay, all right. So that was the answer to the question for last show.
But today's
And
question one more time. I'm
Today's question was, what breed of dog has the largest vocabulary?
All right.
All right, the answer will be given on the next show. And now we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us on Animal Magnetism. And once again, it is time for one of my favorite segments of the show, Dr. Gray's Pet Tips. Dr. Gray, what do you have for us today?
Well, Carolyn, we talk an awful lot about dog behavior, but occasionally we need to talk about our feline friends as well. A lot of great families out there like to adopt a stray cat now and then, and that's a great thing, and I encourage more people to, open up their homes to other pets if they can.
Right.
But it often creates havoc with the existing pet family. And so one of the things I suggest is if you do add another cat to your home, you want to make sure you add at least one more litter box spread out throughout the home. That way there's no competition for space. I mean, cats are just like human beings. We like a fresh bowl, and we like our own space.
I
So you wanna
sure
make
do.
you want to make sure that you have plenty of litter space for the cat. Some experts recommend one box per cat plus one more box spread
Interesting.
throughout the home.
Okay.
And the other thing I would suggest is when you do change that litter, and you should change it often because, cats are rather finicky
Right.
by nature, you want to leave a little bit of the waste inside each box. That way it reminds the cat, oh, yes, this is my box, this is where I go, everything is okay.
That's genius. That is just genius. Yes, to remind them of where their particular private space is.
Yep, we have
Amazing.
to respect the boundaries, and I think they'll all get along.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Gray. Great tip. We'll talk at you later. And we are back for the final segment of the show. And this is something I enjoy every show, calling out to a hero, giving a little hero shout out. And my hero of today's show, believe it or not, is the Los Feliz Small Animal Hospital. I had a bit of an incident yesterday with a dog that wasn't even my own. And I was there, and they worked with me. The staff was kind, comforting, just very, very malleable in terms of being able to sort of be fluid and shift with what my needs were, what the animals' needs were, and so I am calling them out because I think everyone in the Glendale, Atwater, Los Feliz area should take any small animal they find or have to the Los Feliz Small Animal Hospital. You can find them. I'm going to give out their phone number.
Yeah, do
it's
it.
323-664-3309. They are located at 3166 Los Feliz Boulevard, kind of close to the Tam O'Shanter. I think it's still called the Tam O'Shanter. Or it's close to the Costco. It's there on Los Feliz
There we go,
Boulevard
Costco.
between the 5. And I know I'm dating myself with the Tam O'Shanter. So there's that, and you can find them at lfsah.com. So everybody check them out because they'll work with you. They're heroes. The ladies at the front desk are fantastic. They are my hero for the show. And with that,
That's great.
we come to the end of another installment. I may start singing on the show.
Please do.
We come to the end of another installment of Animal Magnetism. Thank you so much to my guest for today, John Lukas of the Okapi Conservation Project. Thank you again to my wonderful co-host,
Your quiet co-host.
the delightful. You know what? You're there. You are the wind beneath my wings.
I love
You are my bedrock. You are my foundation. the delightful Miss Tricia Lasky. Thank you as well to all the folks who make this show possible. Without whom I could not do it. My producers, the gorgeous Andrea Compton, Steve Rohr. Thank you also to Dr. Gray Stafford of the Wildlife World Zoo in Phoenix and vegan chef extraordinaire Maureen Flanagan. Finally, to my board operator today, it's not the handsome Jamal, it's the uber handsome Tony Sweet, the most handsome man in radio. And I know because I'm looking at him. Join us again in 2 weeks. Boy, I really want to make this a weekly thing. There's
I do
so
too.
much to talk
we need
about.
To. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We've got a lot of people to talk to.
We do. We still have sponsorship opportunities available for anyone out there. Please contact me, animalmagnetism.com, on my Animal Magnetism page.
If you want to hear more of Carolyn, get on it.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I will read your ad on the air. Many
She
times.
reads so well.
So with that, I'm going to say a gracious goodbye to you all. Remember, always strive to enlarge your conservation heart, because that's the thing, that if it keeps beating, it will become the heartbeat for the planet. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Something tells